Hi there. So I want to talk to you today about motherhood and real estate. My name is Karen Cooper. I'm the founder of Empowering Women in Real Estate. And this is a community that I started 12 years ago when I was in a very unique position in my real estate business. I've been in the industry for 24 years. I've raised 3 kids while I was being a busy realtor. When I was active in sales production, I averaged selling 50 to 60 homes per year by myself with just a part-time assistant, no buyer's agent, or even for the majority of that time, not even with the team. And so there were a lot of things I learned, especially when my kids were little, that I thought I would share because it's back to school season. The day I'm recording this for you is the first day of school in my area. And while my kids are grown, my oldest just graduated from college. My youngest is about to be a senior. He homeschooled. We're just in a very different world. But I think back fondly to those years, those early years of my career and what that looked like. When I started out in real estate, my youngest son was born when I was not quite 2 years into the business. So I'd done a lot of business up to that point, but I was still really relatively new, if you think about it. And so well, there's a lot of pressure that comes along with that. There is a lot of guilt, I think, that we feel when we are moms and we are trying to balance real estate and money. One of the things that I realized really early on in my career is that at that time, I did not see any mentors for how to be the real estate agent, the business owner that I wanted to be, and be the type of present mom that I wanted to be. At that time, I saw agents that were just absolutely killing it in their business, but gone all the time, not spending time with their kids, not being active with their kids, or they were hobbyish in terms of their real estate careers. Maybe they would work with a client or two between maybe pick up or drop off, but it really wasn't a focus. And I didn't want that. I wanted a strong real estate business. I wanted to build a thriving, growing business while also being a really present mom for my kids. And so I learned a lot of things. I realized that I was going to have to be that mentor for myself and I was going to have to create goals for myself. And that is actually, I think, one of the things that I don't think we realize in this business because we see how other people are doing things, or we hear how our broker is telling us we need to do things, or how our team leader is telling us that we need to do things, or how the various coaches, a lot of whom tend to be male, are telling us how we need to do things. But the truth is, we can create this to be whatever we want. We can design our businesses to be whatever we want. And there are 3 things that I want to share with you in today's video. These are things that I learned that have helped me to be the mom that I wanted to be while also building the business that I wanted to build. So the very first thing that I would tell you is you need to be clear on what is important to you. There's the saying that you can do everything or you can have everything, you just can't have it all at once. And I find that to be really true, especially when your kids are small. And for me, my kids were little, they're just a few years apart. My husband is a firefighter, so he was on shift work for the majority of the early times of growing up. And so it was really hard. It was hard to balance real estate and being there for my kids, and not just the things that I wanted to do, but the things that were necessary, the things that I needed to do. And so what I learned is that I just needed to get really clear on what was important to me. For many years, anybody who knows me would have heard me say, I basically have time for 2 things. I have time for my kids and I have time for my real estate business, which meant I sacrificed a lot of other things. I sacrificed friend relationships. I sacrificed hobbies. I sacrificed girls' nights and things like that. And no shade or shame to anybody who enjoys those things. It's just, for me, that was what I was really clear on what I wanted. Those were the 2 things that were my priorities for a really long time. And so what I would suggest to you, and this will change, this is the thing, especially when you have kids, you notice as they grow and they go through different seasons and they're going through different life changes and they're learning things, it almost seems like every 6 months, every year, like something is different, things are changing. And so that's going to happen too with your priorities and with what's important to you. And so the more clear you can get about that for the particular season that you're in, the better. So get really clear on what that means. What mom do you want to be? Do you want to be the room mom? Do you want to be the one that chaperones the field trips? Do you want to volunteer in the classroom? Do you want to take your baby to mommy and me classes? What are the things that you want? Get really clear on what those are. Because if you're not clear, then you're just going to have competing priorities constantly, and you're just going to be bouncing around without any clear path. So get really clear on what it is that you want. That's the first thing. The second thing, once you're really clear on what's important to you and what you want, is to put some boundaries in place around those things. When my kids were little, when they're babies or they're toddlers, that whole bedtime, bath time routine, that's so precious and that's so important. We would do the bath, and we would bundle them in the towel, and we would read the books. And then my oldest loved Elmo, and so we would watch an Elmo video. And this is 22 years ago, back when they were on VHS tapes. And so we had this whole routine of things that we loved. And so my boundary, my rule then was I would not miss the bedtime bath time routine 2 nights in a row, because how it is in real estate, we have to work nights and we have to work weekends. I could have easily been gone every single night. And I know a lot of agents that were gone every single night, but that was not what was important to me. So my rule was I was not going to miss that routine 2 nights in a row. That felt comfortable to me. I didn't feel like I was missing too many things. Depending on my husband's shift or his work schedule, I would try to make sure that if I had the night that I was working, then it was the night that he was home, so that he would do the routine, so we would trade off. And so that worked well for us. I didn't feel like I was missing too much as far as my kids were concerned. But then also, because it was just every other night, it didn't feel like it was too far off when I was having to schedule an appointment with someone. It's not like I would say, well, my next appointment is 5 days from now. I can't do it tonight, but I can come tomorrow night, or I can show it to you tomorrow night, or whatever. And that seemed to work. And so I did that the whole time that they were little. And then so we moved into another season, and they're all school age. My next rule was I was not going to miss dinner time. All family sitting around the table. That was something that was really important to me. Was not going to miss that 2 nights in a row. And so again, that was my rule. It was the same as the bedtime, bath time thing. I knew that I wasn't going to be missing too much if I missed it one night. And it wasn't too far off for me to say to my client, okay, I can't come tonight, but I can come tomorrow night. And so that really worked. And then as they got even older still, then my next rule was I was not going to miss their activities. I was not going to miss their games. It was soccer and basketball and baseball and lacrosse. I was not going to miss their games. I was not going to miss their school plays. I was not going to miss those special milestone things for work. Now, maybe I would have to miss it because I was sick, or my story, I was having treatments for recovery or something like that. I would miss for that, but I would not miss for work. And I really did maintain that throughout their entire, we're done with sports now. And it feels like when you're in the middle of that season, it feels like the games are infinite, and it feels like you're going to be doing this forever. But I'm here to tell you, there is going to come a time where you're going to be counting down to the final few. My oldest, who just graduated from college this past spring, he was a college lacrosse player, and we are done. Like, we are now done with sports, and we didn't miss anything. And in fact, even his senior year, we traveled. We would drive hours and to go to the games, but it was really important to me. That was something that was important to me. And so I didn't want to miss them. So the more clear you are on what those boundaries are, then it's a lot easier to manage your business around them, because you're putting those, if you've ever seen, I've seen this presented so many times, where you've got a jar, right? And you've got the rocks, you've got the big rocks, and you've got the smaller rocks, and you've got the pebbles, and you've got the sand. And if you put the small things, if you put the sand in first and then maybe the pebbles, then the jar is going to fill up and you're not going to get those big rocks in. But if you start by putting your big rocks in first, and those big rocks for me was either bedtime, bath time, or the dinner time, or as time went on, date night with my husband, or going to the games, I put those in first, and then everything else would work around it. And I was able to accomplish so much more and get so much more done when I went at it with that intentionality in mind. And then the third thing that I will say is, don't miss out. I think sometimes there might be a tendency to think, oh, I can't be successful in real estate right now because I've got little kids, or I'm in this certain season with my kids, and so I can't maybe make an excuse for why we can't also be successful in our business. But really, when you are that young mom and you've got those kids in school, I've never had so many opportunities in my business as during those years, because you want to be open-minded to your business. Yes, you're there with your kids. And I am not the salesperson that's going to go up and say, hey, who wants to buy or sell real estate? Like, that has never been my vibe. That's never been what I've done. But I've let people know what I did. And so there were always opportunities. There were sponsorships. I would sponsor the PTO. Anytime there was an event at the school, I would sponsor it. I would sponsor their sports teams, and I'd have my name on the back of the jersey, and would make sure that I sponsored the end of the season party. And so of course then the coach would be telling the parents, and Karen Cooper, a great local realtor. And so it just naturally, I'm already connected to these people, but now they're finding out what I do. And so it just made the conversations easier, and they would approach me. So there's a ton of opportunities that you have there that are just natural. Another one is thinking about the people that you meet in the schools. When my kids were in elementary school, every time I went to pick them up early from school, or maybe I was volunteering in the classroom, I would take a pop by with me. So pop bys was something that I was taking to my clients anyway. And so when I would go in, I would say to the receptionist, hey, so appreciate everything that you do for our kids. I'm giving these out to my clients this month. I thought you might want one too. I did the same thing with the teachers, and I have done so many transactions. At one point, I've done transactions with every receptionist that was at the elementary school when my kids were there. I have had many of their teachers have become clients of mine later on, and it's just because I built those relationships. I just let them know what I did, not because I was asking them for business. I was just letting them know, and a lot of times it would just naturally come up in conversation. And so there's a lot of opportunities there if you're just willing to be a little open and to have a little courage just to say, hey, here, this is what I do. Here's a little something for you. And then one more thing that I would do is I would look the part. And when I think about other agents in my market that would compete with, that also were moms and we had kids the same age, a lot of times I would get the opportunities over someone else, even though I knew they had better relationships with that person. And I think it's because I look the part. If every time someone saw me at a baseball practice or at a game and I was hair back and no makeup and I'm wearing my yoga pants and a t-shirt, what is the perception? The perception is it was home all day. The perception is maybe I was cleaning my house all day. I would not look like someone who had been out with clients. So I would come from work and I would be dressed professionally. This is casual, but professionally. Sometimes I could have a name tag on still. But like they would look at me and see, oh, she's a professional. It was obvious that I'd come from work. Right? Just like the other parents had come from work, it was obvious that I had come from work. So I was busy in my business all day. And since they knew what I did, then it was easy to see, okay, this is someone who's serious about her business. She's a full-time real estate agent. And so that just opened up so many opportunities. I think that's such a small thing that I think it's easy to discount and think it doesn't matter, but it actually does really matter. When someone is going to decide who they want to work with, they want to work with someone who's a professional. They want to work with somebody who's focused on their business. They want to work with someone who is spending the day working on their craft and working with other clients and is immersed in the market, not with somebody who just happens to have a license and can help them. There's a big difference between somebody who has a real estate license and can help them to buy or sell their home than someone who is fully immersed and serious about their career. And so just that slight little shift in how I presented myself, I do really think helps me a lot when it came to my business. So those are 3 things that I found really helped me. I will just say mom guilt is a real thing and you can't be everywhere and you're not going to be able to do everything all the time. But the more clear you can be on the things that are important to you, what's important to your kids. Like my kids loved having me at the games. My kids liked it when I volunteered in the classrooms. My kids liked it when I chaperoned their field trips. And so I would try to prioritize those things because I knew that would enhance that relationship. And so I think the better that you can do those things, I think the better for your business. And then lastly, just embrace the changing seasons. Every season it changes. They change constantly. From when you think about the changes from like before their school age and then preschool and then kindergarten and then elementary and middle school and high school and then college, those seasons change so quickly. And so you just need to be willing to embrace those changes, not just from a motherhood perspective, but embracing those changes as a real estate agent, embracing the changes that happen in your business. That will take you so much further. So thanks for watching. See you next time.